Welcome, everyone. We are so glad to start this today and just so pleased to have you guys join us. Before we get into anything else, thank you. Genuinely, you've already chosen Canada once, or you are someone who's coming here because someone who had come to Canada had shared this with you. The fact that you're here today tells us something. It tells us that it stayed with you. That's what Canada does. It's not a destination you check off a list. Something shifts when you sit in front of the Rockies or watch the landscape change for hours from the window of a train or looked up in the sky doesn't even look real. And you start to understand why people who know this country talk about it the way they do, with this quiet certainty that nothing is quite like it. That's actually what a Canadian insider is at its heart. Not a title we give ourselves, it's something that happens to you. The moment Canada starts being a place you're curious about and becomes a place you feel like you know. You've crossed that line because you're one of us. The people on our team, the ones you'll speak with when you call, and the ones you had spoken with before, that's how they got here in the same way. They took these journeys, they stood in these places, and that's why they can help you plan it. It's different than not just reading a brochure. They've actually we're going to take you somewhere that they've been, somewhere that they love. So welcome back. We built today's session exactly for you. People who have already had a piece of Canada in them and are ready to find out what the next piece might look like. So this is just a bit of a geography reminder and just to kind of set the stage. And even if you've you've been to Canada or you're from Canada, this is just kind of let you see a couple things. The dotted line that you see running across the south is the train corridor. That's the Vancouver in the west, through the Rockies, all the way across to Toronto, Montreal, and Atlantic Canada. For some of you, these paths you know very well. That's a journey most of you kind of may have come to us from. But you'll also notice 3 points north: Whitehorse, Yellowknife for Northern Lights, and Churchill in Manitoba. But there's also that opportunity to see polar bears and whales in the tundra. So it offers so much. Canada is extraordinary, and it takes 30 years of knowing it well to plan it the right way for the people who are traveling it, so it is the way that they want to see it. So one thing I just want to kind of highlight, because some of you are coming from different types of experiences that you may have had with us. So some of you know us from the Canadian train vacations, and that's actually one of our 3 experiences that we built. The same team that might have planned your rail journey are also the same team who would take you to Churchill to see polar bears on the tundra, or up to the Yukon and the Northwest Territories to watch the Northern Lights. All 3 are fully personalized. All 3 are built around you the same way. So that customized, personalized experience you get regardless of which type of experience that you choose. So if Canada's been on your list again, and whether it's trains or it's Northern Lights or it's polar bears, you've come to the right place. So what we're going to do today, what we're going to kind of talk to you about why Canada and when to go. So there's some really specific reasons, and Kirsten's going to go over all of that with you as to why Canada really kind of is the place to go to get the most Northern Lights experience. Regions and experience beyond the lights. The lights are actually kind of what may be of most interest, but there's so many things that happen and that you can do during the day that really can change the kind of experience that you might want to do, what interests you. What a well-planned Northern Light trips looks like, really understanding the viewing, the comfort. There's some questions about, like, if I come at this time of year, how would I stay warm? Just going to walk you through all the things that are already pre-planned and handled for you. And that's all the planning considerations. And then we've got a very special benefit of a savings that is only for you, and that is very unique to something that we don't typically do, but because we really want to do it as a form of gratitude. And now we're going to move on to kind of just really quick. We already talked about the Canadian insiders, and because you've worked with them, and these are the people who've helped plan your trips with you, who followed up with you, who made sure that during your time on the road, everything went well. Our Canadian insiders have been creating personalized Canadian vacations since 1996. With team members based across the country, more than 25,000 custom itineraries planned, we bring firsthand knowledge and care to every journey we design. But now for the real star of the show. So Kirsten McNabb is going to come on. She's our product manager. She's a product marketing manager, although some of you may have known her when you booked a trip with us because she's also worked in that role. Kirsten has worked in the product team, building relationships with new and existing companies. And more recently, and really why she is the expert, so I couldn't have brought you in a better person. She has actually developed the entire Northern Lights brand, all the itineraries. She has a very close relationship with our partners up north, and she really does know exactly how and why the itineraries were built, and then why Canada. So I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten.
Thank you, Jane. Hi, everyone. I'm Kirsten. I have been with Fresh Tracks since 2017. And as Jane said, we might have spoken on the phone in the past. I might have helped you plan your trip to Canada. And welcome back, everyone. So before we get into the finer details about each destination and trip, the first question you might be asking yourself is why choose Canada? It's the most asked question on our website. Why Canada? Will I see the Northern Lights? Can you guarantee it? Questions like that. So, although not as well known worldwide compared to, say, Norway or Iceland, Canada is actually statistically performs better for Northern Lights viewing. So, Northern Canada sits directly under what's called the auroral oval and is therefore geographically aligned for best viewing. This polar region benefits from strong solar flare activity, which creates the aurora every year, not just during the solar maximums that you might have heard of recently. What the solar max does is it more extends the oval south so that other areas are able to see the aurora more clearly than usual, whereas in the north, they see it year over year. On top of this, our northern regions span across three key areas, giving you more differentiation for your travel experiences alongside that aurora. Aurora is also not just a winter phenomenon, as the solar flares occur actually around 300 nights annually. It just needs to be dark enough for you to see them. So this means we have varied options for fall and winter to align with your bucket list trip. And our team are really fantastic at taking a consultation approach to your inquiry so that ensures that your needs and wants are best aligned to your trip. So, in terms of seasonality, we have two main aurora seasons, namely fall and winter. Neither of these are better in a statistical sense. The way that they are different is really just in terms of the activities and obviously the weather. So the lights are historically tracked, and evidence shows that they appear about every second or third night during these two aurora seasons. So if you stay at least 3 nights during this aurora season, you have an over 90% chance of seeing the aurora. So it's pretty high chances. So the choice is really just timing is a personal preference. Each season brings different scenery, activities, temperatures, and daylight hours. So the fall offers you a beautiful fall landscape, activities like boating and game fishing and hiking. You also get those longer daylight hours to explore. Whereas in the winter, you get the iconic snow-filled landscapes, those northern experiences like ice fishing or dog sledding and snowmobiling, alongside long, dark nights. So extended nights in the winter. And one thing you might have experienced winter yourself wherever you're coming from, but up in northern Canada, we know how to do winter. So I'm sure the majority of you have seen winter in a city where the snow turns brown after a day and it just gets in the way in general, or in other areas where the true winter lasts maybe 2 to 3 months. In northern Canada, winter is a much longer as the snowfall begins in late October and it really doesn't clear until May. So therefore, it's really a way of life for them up there, and they lean into it, and they've built really a style of community around it. And surprisingly, though, it does not actually snow constantly during that peak winter season. Precipitation is actually somewhat low, but because it stays cold, that winter ice pack, that snowpack on the ground, it sticks around so those iconic winter experiences can happen, but it also allows for those clear evenings for aurora viewing. What we want to keep in mind is that travel is personal. So I'll keep reiterating that you have all the choices. You get to choose what goes into your trip because this is your experience, and what you're most looking for and what someone else might be looking for can be completely different. So our Canadian insiders will help guide you through what the right time for you is, what the right destination and travel style is. Outside of the aurora, your choice of destination and timing depends a lot on your comfort, the weather, and everything that suits you. For example, if you're looking for those unique activities like ice fishing, you'll want to travel in the winter. But alternatively, if you aren't ready to be exposed to that minus 30 Fahrenheit degree weather, then you'll want to look at the fall. The third question you might be asking yourself is where would you like to stay? Are you more inclined to a downtown hotel with shopping and dining options nearby, which means going out nightly to see those aurora? Or would you prefer to sacrifice that downtown access for a remote lodge where the aurora viewing is right on your doorstep and nature as well? That's totally up to you. So let's talk about the different regions separately now. Here we have another map to show you the three key entry points for our destinations. So top left, we have Whitehorse in the Yukon. In the middle, you've got Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, and Churchill, Manitoba in the middle. These are the three key cities for your northern destinations. In the Yukon, it's best known for its mountain scenery, with the locals calling it the Rockies of the North. It actually has the tallest mountain in Canada. The lake you see here is Emerald Lake, and it's a stunning turquoise color in the early fall, in the September period, and you get some really fantastic fall foliage as well. The scenery is still beautiful in the winter because who doesn't like a snow-capped mountain? Otherwise, in the Northwest Territories, or specifically Yellowknife, which is where our primary itinerary is, its beauty is as well with the fall colours and has countless lakes. However, what makes it unique for the aurora is that the landscape is fairly flat, and therefore the weather moves by quickly. This means you get cloudy days don't tend to last long as in other areas. And then lastly, Manitoba offers some of the most exclusive and unique tour choices. I saw in the comments earlier that someone has already been there, so they can really talk firsthand on that. But Churchill is a really unique area. It's completely remote, inaccessible by road. And our partners here specialize in group tours. So that gives you that extra comfort, guidance, and built in flexibility. These do come at a higher cost, but the value is certainly still there. So there's pros and cons to each destination, and your Canadian insider would be glad to go into detail on this with you so that you have everything you need. Some reasons we might see guests choose the Yukon, for example, is access. We work with Air North, who are Yukon's airline, and they operate daily flights from Vancouver or Calgary. This helps us offer a more logistically inclusive package for you. Another is infrastructure. Whitehorse is a city with somewhat ahead of the rest in terms of restaurants, shoppings, and other comforts. And lastly, it's lodges. The Northern Lights Resort and Spa and Southern Lakes Resort, which we both advertise on our website, are more accessible because they have road access compared to some of the fly-in lodges I'll mention later. So it does mean they have a slightly lower price point to give you that remote experience. So if you're seeking balance and relaxation, a bit of magic and romance, the Yukon is a good choice for you. The Yukon also ticks a lot of boxes in the daytime as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, the aurora is you're in all these areas have prime aurora viewing, but really the differentiation point is the daytime things. So, with the Yukon, you'll get all your typical winter experiences, plus they have a natural hot springs and wildlife preserve, so you get to see the northern animals right up close. And I would say that the Yukon offers the most family friendly options if you're looking for that. So, children under 12, the Yukon is your best bet there as well. In the Northwest Territories, our Yellowknife trips are popular for many reasons. Yellowknife operators are primarily Indigenous owned and operated. So if you're looking for that Indigenous culture, that true Canadian, unique Canadian experience, it's really ingrained in the daily life up there. And the locals are definitely people to meet. Yellowknife is also famous for many TV or social appearances. It's home to the Deda Ice Road, which you might have seen on Ice Road Truckers, or maybe you saw Discovery Channel's Ice Pilots of the Northwest Territories, and you want the chance to meet Buffalo Joe. More recently, a viral Instagram post was from Jennifer Garner, who went up there with her mother over New Year's, and she met with some of our partners up there as well. So we work with the same people she got to see. The last is data. Aurora Max, which is an observatory near Yellowknife, they track the northern lights on a nightly live camera, and you can log in and watch the camera on a nightly basis. And so, statistically speaking, they've tracked it, and you do actually have a 99% chance of seeing the northern lights over a 3 night stay. For the daytime experiences, I've already mentioned the iconic Ice Road, which typically opens in mid-January and stays solid until April. Great Slave Lake, which the ice road is on, is in fact North America's deepest lake. And so it's a key city attraction. Most of your tours will either incorporate it or go by it. So the boat tours are out there, your fishing tours, you go dog sledding on the lake, you go snowshoeing on the lake. So it really is part of their lifestyle up there. Another popular tour is in the bottom left here, which is Yellowknife's Natural History Museum, and the Indigenous guide will take you throughout and give you sort of a historic view on how the history of Northwest Territories and how that relates to their life, their lifestyle as a Dene or Indigenous guide. All right, so I've mentioned earlier that Northern Manitoba offers exclusive and unique trips. This is somewhat due to the remoteness of the area, but each trip is really a bespoke group tour built for a particular interest or audience. You only need to find your way to Winnipeg International Airport. The rest of the trip includes meals, transport, guidance, and it is a small group, so usually a maximum of 20 people on these tours. So trips here tend to have a theme. There might be food, it might be science, and the first of our trips is called Aurora and Astronomy in Churchill, which actually takes place in February and March. That's an educational group tour where you stay at a live research center alongside scientists, so actively studying the aurora. You get to participate and be a part of those studies. So each night when you're looking for the aurora, you get partake in those studies, you get to track it with the scientists. So for those who are the lifelong learner, this is a really unique experience that you could be a part of. And then in the daytime, you do still get to do the dog sledding, all of the outdoor experiences that you'd be looking for in the iconic North. Churchill, you may have also heard of, as Jane in fact mentioned, for polar bears. So unfortunately, the polar bear and northern lights seasons, the prime seasons, I should say, don't have a crossover, as the polar bears are there in October, November, and northern lights prime season is February, March. But there are some ways that if you're wanting to experience both, there are crossover periods where you have a chance of seeing the northern lights and definite chance of seeing the polar bears, or the other way around. So definitely speak to your Canadian insider if you're looking for some ways to see both. The other option would be to go to one of the destinations where fall aurora is prime, such as Yellowknife, and then visit Churchill at the end of the trip and combine the two together. So you can always talk about ways to do that. As a remote destination without road access, Churchill is not a destination many people have visited. So they really do know how to host you up there. Some of once in a lifetime experiences to mention are Dan's Diner, which is pictured in the bottom right here. This is a chef curated 6-course tasting menu that features many locally sourced ingredients, and you get to enjoy that right out on the tundra where the polar bears would typically be in the fall. Uh, so, this Tundra Buggy Lodge is a mobile accommodation vehicle used in that fall period, but they repurpose it for this truly 5-star dining experience in the Northern Lights season. That night is really one to remember, and you might even be coerced into drinking whiskey from the bottom of an ice luge. In other areas, you spend an evening in a teepee with dinner guides and you learn about the mythology of the aurora. Or you might spend the day at that Churchill Northern Studies Centre I mentioned. So you do still get to see some of that scientific learning during the daytime in other group experiences. So I can't stress this enough. Churchill really is a destination you can't simply fly into or figure out how to do on your own. It's remote, it's seasonal, and logistically complex. So that's why we work with trusted local partners like Frontiers North Adventures, who secure that access, logistics, and they bring everything to life for you. So, lastly, I do want to cover all bases. So, there are 2 fly in lodges that we work with for those who are really looking for that remote experience that's truly distinctive. You won't get it anywhere else. So, firstly, we have the Blatchford Lake Lodge, which is just outside of Yellowknife, where you can watch the aurora dance overhead at the comfort of the lodge or a private cabin, or they have a hot tub, sorry, so you can watch it under the stars. The second, I was actually lucky enough to visit, which is called Gangler's Lodge in northeastern Manitoba. So, when you're looking at Churchill on a map, it's just to the west of that, same latitude. And as someone who has now experienced all 3 Northern Lights destinations we've talked through here, it's really the place that's left the deepest impression on me. They operate in September and October, so you get that warm weather rather than the frigid cold. And they actually have biologist guides and some of the best food I've had. They are a watershed property, so surrounded by millions of lakes and actually 5 million acres of space with no neighbors. So less than a few thousand people actually visit this area year over year. It's so untouched that they're still finding indigenous artifacts like arrowheads that are centuries old when they do their little trail walks. The area is extremely unique for geology and all the wildlife you could ask for. So wolves, moose, caribou. You can catch a trophy-sized pike from their jetty, as well as they have the amazing aurora in the evenings. So that's that one.
Kirsten, I'm interrupting you and I apologize. We just had
Okay.
some asks here, just talking a little fast, and they just want to ask if you could just slow
Oh,
down a little bit. Sorry, but I just didn't
absolutely. I do get into myself.
okay. Thank you.
That's all right. Yeah, let me slow down a little. Okay, so we're on to the next slide, but here. So further to Blatchford Lake Lodge, which is now pictured on the top left here. Similar to Gangler's, it's a fly-in lakeside lodge and it offers a close nature experience in that subarctic region. So Blatchford operates in the fall and the winter. The days at Blatchford are spent exploring nature, snowmobiling or fishing in the fall, learning about the local indigenous art, and you can make some salve there as well. So those are two really fantastic, unique experiences if you're looking for something that's once in a lifetime. So all of our online itineraries are meant to start as a starting point. You get to choose what goes into your trip. Our Canadian insiders will work with you by asking questions to best determine your destination, activities, and accommodation that best suits your preferences and budget. So those are all factors that you can take into account and make sure that our Canadian insiders talk you through your different options. And once again, all of our trips operate during prime Northern Lights viewing. We don't offer trips when there isn't a chance of seeing the Northern Lights, and they include at least 3 nights. So that means you have over a 90% chance of seeing the Northern Lights. However, you can add additional time to that. So stay longer and it increases your chances. For example, the Northern Lights Resort and Spa that I mentioned in the Yukon, they actually track their success rate. And in the last year's 7 night stay, they had a 100% success rate. So the longer you stay, the more chance you have of seeing the Northern Lights. Another key piece of information to know is that these Aurora tours are in the evening, and so they do run until about 1 to 2 in the morning. That's why we don't try not to jam pack your days. So we do allow for some rest and naps in the afternoons. If you're looking for even more rest and relaxation, again, you can add extra time. So you get like a night off from the Aurora, for example, and you stay 4 or 5 nights up in these destinations. You could also think about the lodge stay because the lodges are great that they offer a wake up calls. So that means you can go to bed knowing that they'll wake you up should the Aurora show later on in the evening, and you get to catch up on your sleep and never miss out. Speaking of comfort, which is certainly important when you're staying up late in the cold, all of our tours have indoor spaces, whether that's a vehicle or a cozy cabin, so that you can keep warm whilst waiting the aurora in the evenings with warm drinks and snacks provided. And I'm pleased to say that all of our winter trips include winter clothing rental as well. So even if you're coming from places like New York where you're used to the cold, it really is another story when you're up north and you do want those additional layers. These are Canada Goose parkas and they really do save you that extra packing. Don't forget to consider holidays and events too. So, for example, Yellowknife has what's called the Snow King Festival, pictured on the left here, which is the whole month of March. They build a castle out of snow and all of these little figurines beside it. And they'll have events every evening, so concerts, all that type of thing. So, it's really, if you're looking for a uniquely Canadian festival, that's one to see. And if there's anything unique you want, don't hesitate to ask us. We're happy to do the research and find the right experience for you. We recently had a couple from Australia, for example. They started with the Northern Lights in Yellowknife in late September. They did a train trip through the Rockies to catch the end of the Rocky Mountaineer season, and then they finished up in Churchill to see the polar bears. So you really can do it all if you have the time and you want to. Just let us know what you're looking for, and we'll see what we can plan out. And I'll pass back to Jane to talk to you about the exclusive webinar offer.
Thank you, Kirsten. And we're going to ask Kirsten on some of the regions, maybe just to, when she gets into her Q&A. So right after this, I said just a quick, brief couple things I'm going to talk about, and then we're going to go straight to the questions and answers. And you guys can start putting in some of your questions, and she'll answer some of the ones that have already come up. But one of the things I'll ask her to do is just maybe re-highlight some of her regions, because I know that's the part that got a little bit fast and hard to kind of hear. So I'm just going to ask her to recap that for you a little bit. I know somebody specifically asked about ice fishing. So we'll go back to that. But before we do, I want to speak to this just for you guys kind of offer that we have. So what we have is that this is just for you guys, and it is for our repeat and or if somebody has shared this with you, and it is going to give you a up to 600 per couple on any Northern Lights journey this season. And why this is significant is because A, this amount is higher than we would normally do, and B, we normally typically kind of just say, oh, it's this one or this trip, kind of have limitations. And so we are opening this completely up. And the full season, when we say what we're talking about, it runs all the way to March 2027. So not just those that would book in the 2026, that kind of fall window that we just discussed, but also all the way into the March 2027. So this is real flexibility on timing. The second thing I want to point out is that this also is something you can share. Your friends and family don't have to travel with you, or they can, and it allows them to qualify also. So if you have someone in your life who's always wanted to see the Northern Lights or a train, share with them this directly, and they can book completely independently and still have access to the offer. They just have to let them know that they're part of the repeat offer, and give your name. And for anyone on the call, so we also wanted to open it up because we've talked a lot about Northern Lights, but we didn't want you to think we didn't forget about that train journey. So that discussion that you kind of heard about the idea that you could do a train and then you could do the Northern Lights, or if you just wanted to do the train because you've already done the Northern Lights. So we just wanted to let you know that there's also something there for you too. So all you need to do is that when you talk to your Canadian Insider, you let them know that you attended the webinar and that you are a repeat customer or referral, and that you want to now instead talk about using the webinar savings for the train. And they'll know exactly what that means, and they'll know what they can do for you, and they can walk you through that. So really, what is the next step after this? So we're going to go to the questions and answers, but just kind of what to do next. The next step is you want to speak to someone. You already know that a really good journey starts with a conversation. And with our Canadian Insiders, they can just answer questions. Everything you heard from Kirsten, they already know and can speak to in great depth in terms of answering questions, getting clarity, understanding like what are the clothes that are going to come to me, how would I do this, how would I do that. All of these things they can answer. That number is 1-877-404-4236. 1-877-404-4236. We also will have a link when we go to Q&A, and you'll see that number. We're also going to have a link when we go to Q&A where you'll actually see a link that can take you to kind of the website page. Or if it would be easier for you, you can schedule a call, and that works to your schedule. So let's move over to the questions and answers section, and let's get that rocking and rolling. And like I said, you'll see below where you see the 3 links that you see. Call a Canadian Insider, has a telephone number there. You can have the website link, and you can schedule a call. When we're done with questions, this is actually going to stay. We'll close out, but we keep this page open just so you can get to those links, so that way you can hear the questions. So Kirsten, I think you heard my ask. Maybe just a little bit, just kind of go through your whole thing, but just some highlights about the regions.
Of course, yes, and I do apologize. I realize now I was getting ahead of myself on these things when you only see my face. I do apologize. But yes, let me touch on the 3 regions again. So on the west, we have the Yukon, which is above British Columbia. Above Alberta is the Northwest Territories and Yellowknife specifically. And then in Manitoba, in the center, right in the north of Manitoba, is your third area that has really good northern lights in Canada. All 3 are accessible pretty easily by plane, either through Vancouver, Calgary, or Winnipeg. And each of them has fantastic viewing opportunities. The Yukon operates in the fall and winter, as does Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. In Manitoba, you're looking at February and March. They're all fairly close, similar latitude in terms of how close they are up to the Arctic Circle. So they're all past the 60th parallel. Sorry, I just saw this question coming in. So they're all pretty equal in terms of the parallel. I think Whitehorse and Northwest Territories are just slightly higher. I did see questions about guarantees. So I know I mentioned the over 90% chance and the 99% chance in Yellowknife specifically. So all of these give you a really good chance of seeing the northern lights if you stay at least 3 nights. And again, if you stay longer, you have an even better chance of seeing them. So chances go up the longer you stay. They typically show every second or third evening in those aurora seasons. What um, what I can say in terms of a guarantee is it is we sort of the description that it's similar to wildlife. So if you can be in the right place at the right time and just unfortunately not see them. But all of our trips operate in prime season and we do 3 or more nights. So you'll have that really good chance of seeing the northern lights.
Christian, I just thought I'd throw some more questions your way because I know it's kind
Go
of
for
hard
it.
to look at questions and answer. And I'm going to answer one. One question was just about when I talked about kind of the special savings offer that we offer. And one question was someone was worried, like if they took a train from Vancouver, would this apply to them for the Northern Lights? Absolutely. So if you are on this webinar today, we know who you are, like, so you've registered and everything, then you automatically would be eligible for everything that we discussed. That's in that slide, and that will give you in your email, and that you can also see when you click onto the webinar only savings. So don't worry, you're eligible. You attended this webinar. That made you eligible. One of the questions is, which location is closest to the Arctic Circle?
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to answer with the latitude there. So they're
Yeah.
all around the same latitude, about they're over the 60th parallel. Um, so yeah, they're all pretty close up there
Okay.
in terms of closeness to the Arctic Circle. And I did just want to touch on the promo there too. It's also a referral promo, so please refer it to your friends. They would then be eligible as well.
And somebody was asking, how do I apply? It's in your conversation. So when you call or schedule a call and you talk to your Canadian Insider, all you have to say is that I was a part of the referral webinar, or and that's all you have to tell them, right? You just have to let them know that you've been a part of this webinar. So just say I was a part of the webinar, and they'll know what to do from there. And if they have any questions, they know to talk to Kirsten and I, but you don't have to do the heavy lifting on that one. You just need to let them know. Uh, okay, another great question somebody asked us. They said, is it possible to merge a late season beluga whale trip with the Northern Lights in Churchill?
Yes, and I gave a short answer there that is, I think yes, but I do need to check offline. So to make sure that the season crossover, but there is a company called Lazy Bear Expeditions that really specialize in that beluga prime period, and I believe they operate in late August, which gives you a chance of both the aurora and the belugas at the same time. So I will check on that for you and ensure that is the case. And then I did also see a few questions about train trips. So understandably, if you have done a train trip with this before, the trains are an interest to you. There is a short daytime train in the Yukon in the summer and fall, the White Pass, as you may have heard of it. It goes from Skagway through to Whitehorse. So that's an option as a day trip tour. We then also do have the train between Winnipeg and Churchill. That is a 2 night journey, so not a sleeper train for those that have experienced that across Canada. This one operates twice a week, and there is one date for the Northern Lights of Churchill where they combine it with the train. So, yes, that is an option if you're looking to travel by train one direction.
Hey, I know you kind of already touched on this, but one of the questions is there a region that is best for Northern Lights and wildlife?
Hmm. It depends which kind of wildlife you're looking to see. Um, the best chance for both, in my opinion, is the Gangler's Lodge that I mentioned, as you have moose, wolves, caribou, and those sort of northern wildlife in that September August period. However, in Whitehorse, they have the wildlife preserve, so you can see them in a somewhat natural habitat. They're all rescued animals and have a large uh, area to graze in. So it really depends which wildlife you're looking to see. Is the short answer.
Do you have one that's closest? What's the closest location to the East Coast, specifically New Hampshire? So
Hmm.
kind of that east side, upper east side.
The closest would be Churchill, so the Manitoba options, which would bring you into Winnipeg. However, I would say that all of them are pretty easily accessible and equally accessible. So you would be making a flight either to Winnipeg for Churchill or to Calgary and Vancouver to get up to those western areas. So all pretty accessible.
Great. One of the questions was, do we have links? So I just want you to know, and I hope you're seeing it, kind of right below us, what I'm hoping you're seeing is you'll see like a site that says like 1, 2, and 3 underneath it. One is if you wanted to call, it has the telephone number, and you can either click it. If you were like on your phone, it would go straight to the number, or you could write down that telephone number. The second one is actually a landing page that will kind of recap some of the things that she said. The third one is that ability to schedule a call. And then, as I said, we will be sending you an email with some recaps on it today. Tomorrow you'll actually get the video, and we'll be able to get that to you. And we'll get that. And if there's something specifically that maybe you missed that you're worried about, you can ask us here, and we can speak to that. One of the questions you have now is which is the lodge west of Churchill?
Yeah, so that was Danglers, and I've just answered it there. So they do a charter flight from Winnipeg. So again, all those Manitoba trips, you just have to get yourself to Winnipeg, and they take care of the rest. Uh, and I do apologize again. I see talking too fast. So we are going to send you a recording of this, so you'll be able to watch it multiple times. And we do have notes, so we can make sure those notes are sent through in the email as
We'll
well.
actually do the transcripts. We'll actually, so it will be the way the video come through. You can actually click on transcripts, and it will let you
Oh,
see what we were
perfect.
saying. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear.
Hey, I think let's just do one more question. And then, what we do, they asked some of the questions. This is a great question. Do any of the locations have a glass dome you could sleep in?
Ah, sure.
Great
Ah,
question.
that is a great question. As in Norway, I believe it is, they have them there. We don't have those iconic igloos to sleep in here in Canada. We do, however, have similar experiences. So the Northern Lights Resort and Spa in just outside of Whitehorse has what they call glass chalets. So they are floor-to-ceiling windows facing north, so that you have the best chance of seeing the aurora from your bed. They also have blinds that come from the bottom up to keep the privacy as well, and they have those wake up calls too. So the Northern Lights Resort and Spa, if you're looking for that see the lights from your bed experience, that would be the best recommendation for you.
Okay, Kirsten, if you could close us out, tell us just like, kind of just close us out with some of the biggest highlights, maybe, and just kind of getting that. And then one last kind of thing, if I could ask in your closeout,
Mhm.
just that importance about the fact about the winter clothing.
Yeah, of course. So as I mentioned earlier, the temperatures can get as low as minus 30 Fahrenheit. So it is a temperature you probably never experienced in your life. So these parkas and pants and boots, they keep you warm from the outside. So you keep your layers on, you wear your jeans underneath, and they really do keep you cozy and warm. Plus, you'll always have access to a warmed indoor area, so that you're never going to freeze. But do make sure you take like mittens and toques and everything like that with you along the way, so that you are keeping warm. And then just to reiterate, over a 90% chance of seeing the Northern Lights if you stay at least 3 nights in these destinations, and you can always add more time if you're looking to.
Fantastic. Thank you guys all for joining us. Thank you for already being a part of our Canadian Insider team.